Okay, over here. We've got just a couple minutes left. Yes, sir.
You helpfully gave us the marks of recognizing true revival. I heard that, and you talked about that it's a third way between cynicism and emotionalism, so I got that. So, and you said you weren't going to give us methods, but what does strategy look like? You know, whether we're in the pulpit, private counseling, leading a Wednesday morning prayer meeting, there's the private ministry of the word, public ministry of the word. What kind of strategies should pastors have to say, yeah, I'm going to be teaching you about repentance, but I think I probably need to teach you about what revival means that you don't know it means. How do you do that stuff?
Yeah, well, see, I'm trying. So I just said I wasn't going to do that, and you came up, would you do it anyway? What's going on here? I'm a preacher, so there's there's a tendency for me probably to overemphasize preaching. I mean, if you asked me to write a whole book on how do you preach to bring about a revival, I could do that. The trouble is I look at the Korean revival, you know, there was too many places in the world where God clearly did some major work, and preaching wasn't the leading edge. Preaching is always part of it, the gospel. But there were, we Reformed people love the Great Awakening because it was spearheaded by tremendous preachers who went out of doors and just faced the mob and preached people, you know, to conviction and conversion. So I do think there's a way of preaching the gospel that brings conviction, preaching to the heart, preaching Christ, preaching grace. You know, you all must know I do that. I talk about that all the time. But I actually do know that there are churches, I think, that spent 5 to 6 years working on extraordinary prayer, and that's the main thing they have done, and they've seen fruit in people's lives. The only other thing I would say is you got to get, it's like an avalanche. You get a few sleepy Christians waking up, a few nominal Christians getting converted, a few really, really interesting, kind of dramatic conversions from the community, and if you're preaching the gospel in this way that I've talked about, especially in the Center Church book, and if there's a real support of extraordinary prayer, those first little pebbles can turn into an avalanche. That's really kind of the way it works. Beyond that, I'm scared of talking about methods.